Hi gang, so in this video I'm going to be doing another palette battle. So this is episode 4. Again, concept credit goes to Katelyn House. Please check her out. I'll link her channel down below. For this particular palette battle, I'm going to be pitting the Nabla Poison Garden palette against the Afrique Palette by Juvia's Place. So initially I had wanted to pit Poison Garden against Juvia's Place, the Magic Mini. I felt like they had quite a fair amount of jewel tones, but I was looking through my palettes again and I realized that it is actually closer to the Afrique palette. So there you go. We do have some overlapping shades, which I think will make this palette battle more interesting, especially that Cobalt Blue. I think that's what it's called. We've got, you know, some gold, we've got a bright red, and a few other overlapping shades. I also wanted to quickly mention this before I forget. I have chanced upon a YouTube channel and an Instagram account, Stef Pink. Hi, Stef.
Don't mind her. She just feels like she needs to be part of whatever's going on. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so I would say Pat McGrath is a brand that I haven't tried that I want to try. Going to the drugstore and just seeing what's new and seeing like the selection most times, but oh my goodness.
She commented on one of my videos and I went to look at her channel, and she's just started posting videos, so she really doesn't have a lot of subscribers. She explains and goes into a lot of detail with the products that she's talking about, and I think that's really helpful. As far as I understand, she used to work for Sephora, and at a specific point of time she was a freelance makeup artist. Maybe not so much now because of the whole COVID situation. So if you're interested to see her perspective on things, please check her out. She's super sweet. All right, so let's go back to this thing on my face. If you're new to this series, 70% of the vote goes to viewer's choice. So if you're a viewer and you leave a comment down below before my next palette battle is up, your vote will be taken into consideration as to which palette wins, and eventually there will be a winner of palettes from my specific collection. For the first 16 battles, I have chosen palettes that look kind of similar in color story, and therefore I will try to recreate very similar looks on each eye. As the palettes get eliminated, the looks will diverge. Now that I've done a few of these palette battles, I feel as if it would have been better if I just used each palette on each eye and not told you which eye was which. Then again, I think if you are just watching this video, it would be interesting for you to actually know which palette I'm using in case you are considering buying one palette or the other. So from now on, I won't tell you which palette I'm using on which eye yet. I will go through the whole look, but then at the end of the video, I will let you know. For this part of the video, I'm splitting the screen up into two so that you can see how each palette performs side by side. I'm also splitting up the video into segments so you can see how long it takes for me to complete one particular step, such as placing a certain shade down. So the first shade I'm using is Kissy from the Afrique Palette, and Narrative mixed in with Zen from the Nabla Poison Garden palette. The second shade I'm using is Bintu from the Afrique palette, and then Berry Bite from the Nabla Poison Garden palette. The discrepancies in time are not necessarily because one shade is more difficult to blend than the other. Sometimes it has to do with me trying to figure out how I want to place the shade, or I'm trying to match up the symmetry because my eyes are asymmetrical. Next up, I am using the shade Coffee from the Afrique Palette and Subliminal from Poison Garden. Next, I am layering Angelique from the Afrique Palette on top of Coffee and layering Fabric on top of Subliminal from the Poison Garden palette. So for the bottom line, I'm using Côte d'Ivoire from the Afrique palette and Majorelle from the Poison Garden palette. And then transitioning with a little bit of purple, Contenu from the Afrique palette and Craving from the Poison Garden palette, Angelique from Afrique, Fabric from Poison Garden. Lastly, I am creating a little bit of a wing using Côte d'Ivoire from Afrique and Majorelle from Poison Garden. Okay people, so this is the finished look. My hair is not as wavy as it was at the beginning of this video. I had a nap. I also feel a little bit like Steve Jobs with this high black turtleneck thingy. I usually don't like turtlenecks, and that's because I don't like having stuff on my neck. But I have been realizing that, you know, that should keep me a lot warmer, and I'm usually very cold. So this is the finished look. Once again, let me zoom you in really quickly. You can cast your vote now in your mind which eye you think looks better, this eye or this eye. Now I'm gonna tell you which eye is which. This eye right here was created with the Poison Garden palette from Nabla. And this eye right here was created with the Afrique palette from Juvia's Place. So there we go. They're not identical. I think the Afrique palette did have a lighter kind of shimmer, at least, you know, in contrast with my skin tone. Overall, I think the blend on both of them performed quite similarly. I will say that initially when I got the Afrique palette, I wasn't a fan of that blue shade. This particular blue shade. Using it today, it didn't present much of a problem because I wasn't really trying to blend it out. I was just trying to pack it on, really. But even then, I could feel that the blue on the Poison Garden palette seemed to just glide on a little bit easier. But in the end, I think the result looks very, very similar. So yeah, cast your vote. Let me know which one you think looks better. So I won't tell you which one I think won just yet. But yeah, let me zoom you out. And I should also tell you the winner of the previous palette battle that I did. So that was between the Viseart Editorial Brights palette versus the Melt Radioactive palette. That one was really difficult to call, but in the end, I voted for the Viseart Editorial Brights. Everyone else also did vote for Viseart. However, there was one person, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. She voted for the Melt Radioactive palette. I'll leave the percentage of the scores up. I can't, you know, calculate that on the top of my head, but just based on the amount of votes, the editorial brights from Viseart won that particular battle. So I'll be excited to know which palette you think won this particular battle, because it is really, really difficult to call. I think, you know, they look very, very similar. As far as application goes, there are just some variables that are impossible to be shown on video. You would actually be able to feel like how much resistance you need to blend out a product, things like that. So based on my experience, I didn't feel very much of a difference between these two palettes. The Afrique was just a tiny bit easier to blend than the Poison Garden. When it came to the blue shade, however, the Poison Garden blue shade felt like it, you know, it went on easier, and yeah,